The year was 1976. Grand Funk Railroad had a hit with Good Singing, Good Playing. Detroit-based quartet Brownsville Station had released Smoking in the Boys' Room, and Smokey had a memorable hit with Living Next Door to Alice. Everyone, it seemed, wanted a piece of the action, or, if you like, a sniff of the steam. Rushing gallantly into the fray with their eye on the sleepers and ear out for the enthusiasts came Rushden Historical Transport Society. Born in '76 after advertising in the Evening Telegraph to find like-minded motoring and mechanical members of the public, the Society's first meeting totalled 8. 2 years later, Hall Park in Rushden became the site for a display of historical transport, the first cavalcade.
The cavalcade started 21 years ago when we decided, after forming the society 2 years, to hold an exhibition at Hall Park, Rushden. And we had 2 or 3 old cars and the model exhibition and the film show.
But that wasn't the end of the story. In fact, we've only just begun. Turn the clock forward 21 years, rev up those resurrected ramblers, and enter Cavalcade 99. The 21st annual Cavalcade now boasts around 1,600 exhibitors and is the biggest display of historical transport in the UK during the May Bank holiday. Between 20 and 30,000 enthusiasts trod the turf at Lancaster Farm in Higham Ferrers, enjoying everything from E-type Jags to elderly engines. And strangely enough, for a historical transport show, there's not only historical transport on show. The 1999 Cavalcade made a strong bid to become the county's top tip for sheer entertainment, with daredevil stunts from the Skydivers parachute team, decibel-busting drama from fire engine drivers, and dog displays with a difference. There was also the chance for enthusiasts of all ages to share their love of the motoresque with each other, and some rather well-known personalities. On day one, however, all eyes were focused on Rushden Station, where just a few of the hundreds of vehicles on show at the Cavalcade were gathering for the first of 3 road runs.
Well, we had a bumper turnout last year, and I'm sure with Fred Dibner along and the fact that the event improves as we go along each year, the 21st one should be even better. And we used to get regularly sort of 12, 15 steam engines, and I understand we're up to 40 this year, so we've got at least double what we normally have.
And of course it's not just steam engines, it's all sorts of old and commercial vehicles.
Commercial vehicles, military, buses, 400 or 500 cars we've got here this particular year. They all have got their own attractions for different people. But we're trying to get lots of interesting vehicles.
So you're expecting a great weekend, depending on the weather?
The weather looks fine so far. It's been good all week, and the forecast is good.
Jim, you're from Wellingborough.
Yes.
Got 2 vehicles, which you can see behind you. You're looking forward to a good weekend?
I think we shall have a cracking weekend. The weather's turned out nice, so it should be good fun.
What's the enthusiasm with old vehicles? Why do you do it?
Well, they're full of character. They slow life down. You never know what they'll do next. They're fantastic. I was fortunate. I bought these that they'd already been restored, but they take a reasonable amount of time just to keep them up.
Out of interest, sir, what are they worth?
What they're worth? Well, the 7 probably about 4,000 and the 12 about 9, I should think.
All money received from the cavalcade will go towards securing and developing the Society's Transport Museum and extending the railway line from Rushden Station towards Higham Ferrers. That money then means that these classic vehicles will continue to be rescued from the scrap heap and remain part of our living history. Many of the show's exhibits have played their part in shaping our future as well as our past. And I think you must be public enemy number one. There are a few countries that are asking a few questions about you.
No, not really. Most of the equipment we've got here is actually either British Army equipment, which they've sold, and so the government's got all their money back on them, or it's captured Iraqi equipment from the Gulf War. Basically, we've got one series of track vehicles called the FV43 series, which are the standard British vehicles of the 60s, 70s, 80s, right up. In fact, some of them are still being used in the Middle East. They're being used actually ready to go into Kosovo if that happens. Basically, just standard personnel carriers, the one you're standing beside now is standard personnel carrier, been used in the British Army since the late 60s, and they're still using it today.
And moving on from there?
We've got armoured cars behind me. So they've all just now come out of service. Some have been in service for 40 years. They were designed and built late 40s, and they were still used in the Gulf War.
I'm particularly interested in the UN model here.
Yeah, that vehicle actually saw service in Cyprus in those colours in the late 70s, early 80s. And we acquired it in the middle 80s and restored it back to its current condition.
Now, how does that acquisition work?
9 times out of 10, we buy them directly from the Ministry of Defence. They have sales every now and again, and we just purchase them.
Now, this is the norm for the British-made models, but what about the Russian ones you have?
They're a little bit different. Now, most of the vehicles are vehicles which were captured in the Gulf War. Now, they basically have been used by the British Ministry of Defence for trials since the war. They have now decided to dispose of them because they no longer need them. But they just can't sell those because they are captured war booty, in fact. So they have very kindly loaned them to the volunteers at Duxford, because we will maintain them and keep them running order and let them use them again if they need them in the future for further trials.
Now, primarily they're distinguished by their colours.
Yeah, you can normally tell where they come from. The vehicle, most of the Iraqi vehicles are sand, multicoloured sand, and rust, in fact, in some cases, because we haven't actually restored them, we've only just got them. Right up to a Russian piece of equipment which is brand new.
Now, one of the most impressive exhibits here has to be the cruise missile launcher.
Well, it's not a cruise missile launcher, it's a surface-to-air missile launcher.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Tell me a little about this.
It's only a baby thing. It's a surface-to-air missile vehicle which is being used today by the Serbs in Yugoslavia against our pilots. Exactly the same vehicle they're using today, but this one is actually ex-Iraqi. It's in full working order. British Army's got about 20 of them, which they actually purchased from East Germany. That's why we got this one, because they don't need it anymore.
And it worries me that you know it's in full working order.
Yes, we have deactivated it so it can not accidentally be used, because we're based in an airfield, and if somebody was to play with it in the wrong way, we could have an accident. So obviously it's deactivated to make certain that can't happen.
And these weren't the only ferrets camping out. Mark, I really first must apologise for waking you up this early.
No problem.
What are you doing down here?
So we've come down with the armoured cars, show them on the show. Keep a pet ferret, because we're down here for 3 days. Couldn't leave him at home. So I brought him down, so we've got a live ferret with a ferret armoured car.
Now, we've seen the ferrets already, and we'll have a bit of a chat about this one, but I want to find out a bit about the vehicles that you've got down here.
Yeah, we've got a Mark 28 ferret armoured car and ex-RAF Land Rover.
Now, you're down for the 3 days, and you're obviously planning on camping out rough here.
Yeah, we rough it wherever we go. In these tents, we've got decent sleeping bags.
However, I have a couple
sort of living comfort, bring plenty of food, and we have a good social life with the beer and whatever, so you go around with the shows.
Now, I must say you're very chirpy about being woken up, but I don't know so much about your little friend here. Who do we have here?
This is Timon.
You may remember it was a guessing game. This one is
He's a total pet, he's not worked.
One of the
He's just
tanks
kept
they
as a
have
house
on
pet.
display, the most unusual Serbian
How impressed is he by the other ferrets around here?
Serbian modified version.
He's all right. He doesn't like the wind blowing through his fur when he's we're driving around, but apart from that, there's no problem.
No, Mark, I must take your word that he is tame. I don't think I really want to find out.
He's totally hand tame, litter trained, doesn't bite anyone.
And with slightly more movement than Tim, and certainly more noisy, were these feisty items. And it looks like some of these could take off at any moment. Are we safe here?
Yes, you're safe enough.
Now, what are all of these?
Well, they're termed as barn engines, stationary engines. Various people have various names for them, but they're known as barn or stationary.
Now, barn, I presume that's got some sort of farm connotation to it.
Yes, most of them are farm orientated. Some are in industry, local shoemaking industries to run power years ago into the factories.
Now, these were actually used in situations where power couldn't be got in. For example, it'd be in the fields. You mentioned some about shearing sheep. What's that about?
Lister D, very famous one. You can use those for shearing sheep. The farmers take them out to the field. Instead of taking the sheep to the buildings, they take them to the field, and it's mobile power.
So these are designed to be mobile. What sort of weight are they? They must have to have
about 100 and a half, 100 to 100 and a half-ish for a general Lister D.
Now, there's several different types. What other things do we see here?
Well, you've got the Blackstones, you've got Rushden Hornsbys. Some of them can go up to several tons in weight.
Now, is this relative with prices as well?
Yes. If you can start. We started with a Petter A1, which is also can be used for mobile farm work. Lister D, Rushden. We started very small and worked big and brought the family through.
How much would that set you back?
You could spend something in the region of depending where and how you got it, the condition of the engine, but you could spend from as little as £10–15 for something that's in rough condition, needs unseizing, a lot of work doing on it, to something in this rally field today you could buy in prestige condition. You could spend £4–5,000 plus.
And where do your love of these engines come from?
Well, I'm from farming background, I'm farmer's son, so it's all stemmed from the farms.
But it's now become a hobby for you.
Yes, yes.
Do they insist that you wear the hat, Andy?
No, no.
Is there any reason?
I'm an idiot. Like some others we've got round on the rally field. If you walk around the steam engines and what have you on the rally field, you'll see various people wearing different hats. The famous rally for it is Hollowell Steam.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for them, Andy, but I must assure you at this point in time we haven't met anyone else who has, so I'm not quite sure if your excuse is that valid.
Oh, right, okay.
Ron, everyone else seems very au fait with this, I don't know quite what to call it, behind me, help.
Yeah, it's a Volkswagen Beetle Trike. It's a 1974, and we built it about 3 years ago.
Now, there's several questions must be asked here, the first of which is why?
It's just for pleasure, really, and fun, to be honest with you.
It seems a bit of a shame, really, to cut up this Beetle.
Well, it is really, but if you'd seen the state of the Beetle when we got it, you know, it was quite a rotten.
So it was doing it a favour, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, how did this first come to be? What actually happened first of all?
Well, my mate Paul had the first Beetle, and he'd give me a lift in the back, and I decided from there on I wanted one myself. So me and a friend got together, took us 6 months to build, and this is the end result.
Was it 6 months of hard graft?
It was, yeah. Yeah.
All round the
Long
house?
hours. Long hours.
All round outside the house?
Oh, no, we had it built in the garage. So it was long hours. Come home from work, then go straight onto the Beetle.
So it wasn't so traumatic in building it. What's it like to drive it?
Oh, it's nice, yeah. You get all the wind in your hair, you know, no helmet, no seatbelt. It's great.
Now, I must ask, and I'm sure many have asked, do you get wet in this?
Yes, you do. Many people have asked us that, especially because you got the rain coming off the front wheel, and because it's got the roof on, they say, do you get wet? And we say, yeah, because it all comes up the sides.
No chance of getting any sort of windshield, rain shield? Doesn't work like that, does it really?
It is, no. It's just for summer use only, to be honest with you.
Well, there's a lot to be said for being in a tight corner, but I wouldn't fancy my chances if a fire were to erupt here. Good job, this lot are on hand to help. In part 2, we meet the man for whom seeing is not believing, it's the owning that matters. A Highland lass, that's the engine rather than the chap on the left, a badger, and several other furry and feathered folk, as well as the orchestra that are always ready for action. All will be explained in part 2. The sirens are still going strong and they make no apology for it. Well, you can hardly blame them. It's not every day that you get the chance to send your fire engine into action. Or is it? Christopher, do you ever sit in the pub and start chatting up a girl and say, would you like to have a look at my fire engine?
Yes.
What do we have here?
It's a Dennis RS133.
And just let me know a little bit about it. What sort of things does it have?
It's got a 500 gallon per minute pump. It's got a 13.5 metre ladder, which sits in the middle of the top of the fire engine. It's got all the full rescue gear, all the hoses, chemical suits, portable pumps, etc.
Now this is your own, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Now is this the sort that's actually used in current service?
Yeah, I think they're still using them now in some of the brigades across the country.
And I understand you did actually get a call up a while back.
Yeah, that was in the Easter floods. We went out with the preservation group and we was pumping St James Mill Road.
You actually got the call up in the end?
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's nice to put it back into service, really.
So tell me, where does the love of fire engines start? How did it start with you?
Probably from when I was very young. I used to live in Farcotton many years ago when they had the floods in about 1977, I think, and I think it started around that time.
Now you're displaying your fire engine here with several others. Can you let us know a bit about all the others here?
Yeah, there's the ERF next door. He's a member of the Northampton Farm Preservation Group as well. And then this one is as well. This is from a member called Vince Fox, and so is the AEC, which is next door.
Now yours is a relatively new one in comparison to the others. What sort of time would we see the others coming from?
They're coming right from about 1920, I think we got the earliest one, which is a Leyland.
And how old's yours?
Mine's a 1983.
So it's just a little baby in comparison.
Yeah.
And Christopher wasn't the only action man on site here. Meet 12 more and Cindy. To never have 12 action men look so civilised.
Thank you very much.
What do we have here?
We have the 12 musicians on the stage, plus a conductor and two singers. The male are all action men, and the female singer is a Cindy doll, all professionally dressed. I had all the dresses made professionally. Everything else I made myself.
Now, where did the idea first start that you wanted to create something like this?
Well, I've always very much liked the music of the 20s and 30s dance bands. That's been a wartime favourite. And I've had a little bit of modelling in the past, but I wanted to do something quite spectacular and something a bit brain testing, and which it was. I sort of put the two together, you know, and I really don't know when it first all started, but you know, all of a sudden I got this idea and I wanted to do it, and once I started, I sort of laid the baseboard and worked it out as I went on, and I never thought it would be as successful as it is.
Now, how does it work?
It works on a cam underneath the stage. It's operated by hand, turning the handle at the back, which operates cams underneath, and it rods through the stage to the arms and everything. And we play the tape music of the original bands, and it all hopefully it's all synchronised together, and it looks what we hope it looks authentic.
Now, how long has this been in the making?
Well, the orchestra took about 5 years initially, but we've spent a lot of time since then doing repairs, improvements, you know, and general bits and pieces. It's sort of an ongoing thing, really.
And are we likely to find any more recruits to the orchestra in later years?
I don't think so, no, we're no room.
There were quite a few more pieces of art imitating life on show, and imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, especially if you're a bit short on the matchsticks. David, this is the first time you've been caught on film sitting on a Highland lass.
This is correct.
What is this?
This is a tractor. It's been converted from a roller. It worked in the Highlands in Scotland, where it got its name, Highland Lass, and it worked up there on the MacAlpine estate for many years, well, for all of its working life.
And what sort of things would it have been doing there?
This would be worked on a farm, either on a thrashing machine or trailers, towing trailers around, all sorts of farm duties, really.
Now, when it got into all of your hands, what actually happened to it? Did it need any sort of renovation?
We have done quite a bit of work on it to get it into this condition, but basically it was just dirty, really. The boiler needed relagging, and a lot of the brasswork's been done on it that, you know, was in a poor state. But the paintwork was as we bought it, like.
And what has its life been since with you?
Well, we've took it to several shows. We took it to Ireland 2 years ago, and it will be going again this year. We're going to hopefully take 2 of these on one low loader to the docks in Swansea, and then they'll be took over by ship, by ferry, to Ireland, and then we'll steam them from the docks to the rally field, which is approximately 30 mile the other side for us, which is a full day's work to do 30 mile on one of these.
Now, you've chosen not to sit on the Badger over here. Let me know a bit about the Badger.
Right, the Badger's a 1923 road locomotive, which would be used for hauling trailers from farm to farm. We've owned that for probably 12 months, just over 12 months now. And there again, we've done pretty much the same to that one. Give it a real good clean. A lot of the brass work's been done on it. Boiler's been relagged. And just generally, we're going to take that round the shows as well. That's going with us this year to Ireland. So hopefully the weather will be nice over there to us as well.
And the Badger wasn't the only beast getting some attention. Keep watching this space. The cavalcade has only just begun. It's onwards and upwards at Rushden's 1999 Cavalcade of Historical Transport. And what a difference 21 years makes to the popularity and sheer scale of the event to be at over the May Bank holiday. Well, various members of the public may take great delight in buzzing the sight, but they won't steal the thunder of this little lightning F6. Little being the operative word here.
This is an English Electric Lightning F6. When it was stationed in the RAF, it was stationed at Binbrook. When it came out of service, a chap brought 6 of them, which flew to Cranfield, which I was fortunate enough to acquire the front half of one.
Now, how did it come to be that it's in these two parts? How come you've got the front?
Well, they tried to auction them off as complete aircraft, but because there were no interested parties, they kept the front forward section of it, which is the interesting bit, and the rest basically went for scrap.
Now, most people would be rather terrified about the prospect of buying a new car, let alone the front of an aircraft here. What on earth possessed you?
Well, when you're interested in something, you try to push your interest to the ultimate, if you like.
And what are you actually doing today with it?
Well, we've opened it up to raise money for our local charities, what we do.
And a lot of interest in it?
Well, there is, yeah.
Well, the Skyriders parachute team were offered the use of the Lightning. Then they met the pilot. On reflection and comparative wholeness of crafts, they went for the helicopter instead. While the aerial shenanigans were afoot, I took the time to perfect my ploughing skills and pick up a few tips from the pros. I think that's second gear sussed now. John, you've been giving me a little bit of a lesson here. I don't know how proficient I am, and I wouldn't dare drive it down the road, but that's what you've done.
That's what we've done, yeah. We went about 1.5 along the road the other day with it. In top gear, fast.
Fast?
Just give it a run.
How fast is fast?
About 20, 30 mile an hour, it goes.
But that's not its top speed, is it?
I don't think so, not if you're open day.
But you daren't do that?
Don't do it, no.
So first of all, what is it? What do we have behind us?
Minneapolis GTA It's the original one that come from America. It's not one that's just come over from America. It's been in this country ever since 1941.
And you've got another model here as well. What's that one?
Standard Fordson, and just been done up. New big ends, new little ends, strip right ends, new piston rings, the lot.
Now, how old is that one?
That's 41.
So these two are the same age.
Same age,
and what's the difference between the two of them? What's sort of the main features we can see which are different from the
Well,
two?
that's a smaller tractor. That was made in England, and that one come from America.
Right, and how are they both started? Is it
Handles,
ignition?
both handle.
Both handle?
Both handle, yeah.
Brian, this is your chance to shine. We've got a nice audience here. Let us know how much you know about these tractors.
Well, basically, most of them were brought over during the war from America, and the majority of them, I would say, are English. We've got here today, but quite a lot of them are American. We've got John Deere, we've got Case, Alice Chambers. So we've got a very good variety of tractors today.
Now, you say most of them came over during the 40s. Now, this was to help out with the War Act.
It was the actual War Act. Yeah, they were what they called War Act tractors. They were brought over sometimes in skid units, not complete. Sometimes they came over complete, depended on actually what they came over for.
Now, why was the reason? Why did we need them?
Well, we couldn't actually produce enough food. That's basically it. The same thing happened in the First World War when they exported Model Fs, Fordson Model Fs. And they were the backbone of the First World War for the agriculture people.
Now, what sort of different roles did we see these taking then?
Ploughing. They actually towed combines with them. They threshed with them. Basically, general farm duties.
And the RAF said to use them quite a bit as well.
Yes, they did. They used them for towing aircraft across the airfield if they overshot. They used them for towing bomb carriers. They all had a very good job to do, and they did it very well, actually.
And I understand that this also determines what sort of colour they are as well.
Yes, basically they were orange up to probably the second year of the war, and then they suddenly found out that they could be well seen by the German aircraft, and they decided to paint them green, which obviously was the right colour when they were working on the fields.
Now, moving on from that time, we've got several models from the 60s here.
Yes, basically we've got Fords and Dexters, Fergusons, David Browns, Presidents. We've got practically every tractor you can think of.
The main sort of difference that you can see, other than a slight change in the model, are the headlights.
Yes, Fords and Dexter up to about, I think, don't quote me dead on, but I think about 1960 they actually put the headlights in the grille, which was then called the Super Dexter.
And what better way to show off these majestic motors than in the fields of Lancaster Farm, the site of this year's display. As the tractors were leaving the arena, the stage was set for the commercial vehicles to steal the limelight. And if you're going to spend 3 days camping out in Higham Ferrers, you may as well make it a home from home. home from homes, the Ford Anglia Club set up theirs and we're in for the duration. Ken, the Ford Anglia was built in 1959 and you're keeping the legend alive.
We are indeed, yeah. We like to keep them on the road best we can. At the moment, I think there's about 1,000 or so on the road, as far as we know.
Now, of those 1,000, how many have you got here?
We've got 10 here today.
And I've seen several others around the place, but there's actually 10 connected with the club.
There's 10 here that are actually representing the club, yeah. We don't know whether the others are members or not.
Now, what does this club consist of? Is it mainly just the enthusiasts?
Yeah, it's the enthusiasts, but it doesn't just cater for normal cars, it caters for the kit car variants that there are, modifieds, ice cream vans, the estates as well. All sorts.
Now, of these 10 cars which you have here, tell me a little bit about them.
Right, the blue one represented here is actually the base standard model. It was the cheapest Anglia you could buy, very popular with the reps back in the 60s and what have you. The one next door to it is the Anglia Super, which is the other end of the scale. It was the top of the range. It had sort of the twin chrome stripes, it could come with overriders, and it had the 1200 engine, which was borrowed, oddly enough, from the Cortina.
Now, we're saying that you've immortalised these, but they're being immortalised at the moment on film.
Yes, they appear regularly in Heartbeat. Those that watch it regularly will know that the two main police cars in there are both Anglias, the Panda and indeed the CID car.
And this was actually the case, they were police standard vehicles, and I understand there's a rather interesting story connected with the Liverpool police.
There's a rumour going around that the Liverpool police force actually brought two colours of Anglia, one being white, one being blue. To get the Panda effect, they took the white doors off the white ones, put them on the blue, and the blues onto the whites, hence the Panda effect. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but that's the story.
They'll do anything to cut corners, won't
That's
they?
right.
The Cavalcade offered 3 days for enthusiasts to come together and celebrate their love of all things motoring. So it came as no surprise that the clubs were out in force.
We've got some 4,000 members worldwide, literally worldwide. We've got a very comprehensive spare scheme. We currently have something like £300,000 worth of spares for hairdresser and matchless. We run various rallies and things throughout the country.
What is it about the actual event that attracts these people?
I think most of us, it's probably the mark you started with when we were young and silly, and you tend to revert back to what you had when you were young or what you couldn't afford when you were young half the time. There's a great sort of mark loyalty in the classic bike business. And as I say, most people revert to the mark they had when they were youngsters.
Just before we take a break, cast your eye over these little beauties and ask yourself the same question Jules Holland is asking himself. What are my bikes doing in Higham Ferrers? Find out in just a minute. Up in the celebrity stakes in a funny roundabout sort of way by not actually appearing himself was the sight of Jules Holland's bikes. Here to explain how they got here is their minder Ratko Kostovic. Because I understand that you've got two of Jules Holland's bikes here, does he know?
Oh, of course. I mean, how on earth could I prize him away from his favoured possessions such as these, you know, without him not knowing? Of course, I have full permission for this, and I'm surprised he hasn't showed up here today himself. I invite him every year. His bikes have been presented at these shows for the past 3-4 years, and I've always left an open invitation. I've even offered to buy his entry tickets if he was short of a shilling or three.
Seems rather unlikely. What do we have here?
Well, here, first of all, is this machine has been in his possession for the best part of just over 20 years now, and he's very, very much in love with this. I know this.
What's the make here?
It is a Velo set, and it's a 1959 machine. It is not 100% Velo set. There are a few strange pieces on there, but they blend in rather nicely, so they're not totally out of place. It's a 500cc single-cylinder 4-stroke engine, a rather sporty version.
No, it's not the only bike he's got down here. What else do we have?
Well, the other machine, which is this rather smart-looking Vincent Rapide 1948 vintage, this particular machine is a re-import to this country from Argentina. The Vincent family had relations out in Argentina who were connected with the diplomatic front, what have you, and of course this was an excellent opening for them to do business, and so consequently quite a number of these products were exported to Argentina for the police force. 50 years down the road, machines have become extinct. I mean, Vincent's folded up in 1955, and they've kept them going, but eventually they gave up, and progressively, bit by bit, you know, large chunks were brought back into Europe. This particular one ended up in Germany, and some German guy put it back together to more or less this standard. It was acquired by Jules's agent, if you like, last August, so it's not been in his possession for very long. But I've got the responsibility of making it tick.
Only slightly less menacing than the Jazzman's motors were these rather enthusiastic engines. For some, the dream is to own their own car or motorbike, but for George, it was to own his own steam engine. George, we're here with Margaret and Jimmy B.
That's right.
Let me know a little bit about them.
Well, we'll start with Jimmy B. That's a 1900, so we have a birthday next year, so we'll probably have a good party for the millennium as well. I bought Jimmy B in 1990. She's in a very derelict state, stood outside for 35 years. I've got two sons, and we restored her, and she was out again on the road in 2.5 years.
Now I must ask, you're calling it a her, but it's a Jimmy.
It's a Jimmy, well, they call them hers, but Jimmy B's, we named Jimmy B after the late brother-in-law who first brought it into preservation.
Now what is the actual make and model?
It's a Marshall, it's a 6-horse Marshall compound. Now, we believe to be the oldest 6-horse Marshall compound in the UK. There are older ones in Australia, but the numbers are slightly lower, so we think perhaps they were built together when they were first built.
Well, that's Jimmy. Let's talk a bit about Margaret then.
Margaret is a 1909 Garrett. Now, we look after that. That actually belongs to Mr. Jack Betts of Earl's Barn.
She's in fine fettle here. Where was she actually built?
She was built in Leiston in Suffolk.
So she's travelled a little further outfield today.
Oh yes, I don't really know all the history about this. My son would tell you, but I don't really know all the history of that one.
Now, what is the attraction to steam engines?
Well, if you didn't like steam engines, you wouldn't bother with them really, would you? But the attraction is, I don't know, they come alive, they're alive. And the people you meet at these steam rallies, well, it's marvellous really.
So it was well worth the introduction to Jimmy and Margaret?
Oh, absolutely marvellous, yeah, yeah.
And here's an engine Margaret's got her eye on. Richard, I think it was about third time lucky that this got moving. What do we have here?
Well, it's an Ulchin traction engine built in Northampton and a Foster threshing machine which was built in Gainsborough.
Okay, let's deal with the threshing machine first. What was it used for?
It was used in the 1930s for thrashing corn. It's the equivalent to what a combine harvester is used for today.
And briefly, how does it work?
Briefly, what they used to do was cut a field of corn into sheaves. They'd take the sheaves and throw them into the top of the threshing box, and this would separate the corn, which would come out the back end of the machine, and the straw would come out the front end of the machine, and all the rubbish would come out the middle. And that basically what it does.
Now we're looking at this machine, but I have no idea how old it is. Do we have any
Well, we think that because it's got a late serial number on the thrashing box, it was built very late on. Although it looked quite old with the iron wheels, it was probably a special order from the customer.
Okay, now it's being powered here by the steam engine. How does this work?
The steam engine works from steam, fire and water. This is an Alton traction engine built in 1910. It was built in Northampton at the Globe Works. Globe Works produced 250 traction engines. There are only 19 of these surviving today. There's 14 out on the rally fields nowadays, so they're quite a rare machine, and it's a local.
Does it need any sort of modification to actually run a threshing machine like this?
No, this is what it was built for. It's doing the job that it was actually designed to do, and it's been done this job since 1910. It was bought by a contractor to use on this thrashing box.
And would this have been seen around the fields in Northamptonshire?
Very much so. Well, no, originally it was supplied to Leicestershire. From Leicestershire it went up to Lincolnshire, so this particular outfit would never have been round this area, but they were built locally. Well, the engine was built locally, but they wouldn't have never been round here in the olden days. I mean, they are today because we take them locally, we live locally.
And now more than 90 years on, it's actually coming home?
That's right, yeah, 90 years old, and we bought it back from Lincoln in '93, and we took it back to the place where it was built, where Rice Foundries are in Northampton, Globe Works, and we had a reunion there, and she's been away for 90 years, but she's back home now.
The crowds at the cavalcade were spoilt for entertainment. Not only were there the classic vehicles of every shape from all eras, aerial displays and animal antics, but there was also the chance to let your hair down, wobble on that big wheel and dive onto a dodgem. But in this case, only if you happen to be under that crucial half-inch height. Tony, I think there's a bit of rivalry going on between you and the rather larger version over the other side of the field.
It is a bit, but mine's better.
How is it better?
You don't have to pay to get on mine.
What sort of things can we see on it? What have you got?
Well, I got a couple of wheels, dodgem cars, and this one, Mojo there, that's made out of a load of different bits and bobs, you know.
So do you actually make all this yourself?
Well, yeah, they're done from kits, most of them.
And how long would something like this, would each individual one take?
Probably a weekend. Altogether, it took me 5 months to get it done.
Is this the first one that you've made?
No, I've made 2 others besides.
What is the attraction? Why do you want your own fun fair?
So I like doing it, and I can get in my own little place and play with it myself. I'm a kid at heart, see. And that's it.
Have you been on the other one?
Not this one, no.
No competition?
No competition. It's not big enough.
And these weren't the only models making up the miniature world at the show. Something slightly different here, several vehicles.
Well, we as a society, we own 3 buses now, all local buses, a couple of fire engines. We've got a motorbike, push bike, a lot of stuff down the station from railway. We've got railways, engines, steam engines we've bought recently, which Mr Woodcock, our chairman, will probably tell you more about, because I'm more of a bus fanatic than I am with trains.
Now you've also got several miniature items here.
We have. I myself deal more with a stall we run, and quite basically I'll just ask for donated stuff which I'll take round to the rallies and sell, which helps hopefully to keep our buses running in order.
Now what sort of things have we got on your store here?
Well, you name it, it's been here over the weekend. I've had trailers in here, been brought in, people have said, if you get so much for it, I want so much, you can have the rest, which I'll do. Like, you name it, I've had it here. Bike in the tubes, you can see there, bread bins, magazines, books. I don't think there's anything apart from the kitchen sink that I haven't had here, to be quite honest with you.
And what about for the children? What sort of things are here?
We do go down to cash and carry and buy things for the children. As you can see, we've got children's toys here. We've got models there for the avid collectors, although there haven't been many of them there this weekend, but I'm sure I can find some in 3 weeks' time at Leicester pageant.
So basically you cater for all the enthusiasts and you're one themselves?
We do the best we can, yes. Because being a registered charity, we're not allowed to spend too much money or too much out of registered charities' money.
to get things in, so I rely a lot on donated items that people have thrown out. And some of them are, you know, I wouldn't throw out myself.
Have we any idea how much money's been raised from your store this weekend?
Well, I have, but I wouldn't like to broadcast it, to be quite honest with you.
But we're looking at a nice sum.
I've had enough to buy 4 batteries for a double-deck bus, and I've drawn enough over the weekends to get it reglazed with new window rubber and double-deck rubber.
So everyone will be able to see their money in working order?
By this time next year, Northampton Transport red double-deckers should have a new coat of paint on it and have complete new window rubbers in it.
So with the scene set to raise everyone's spirits and as much money as possible, Cavalcade 99 rolls on. Hello and welcome to the 21st Annual Rushden Cavalcade, where unusually for an event for Rushden, we're in St Neots.
Been coming here for many years. First couple of years as a spectator before I could drive, and ever since then on either a motorbike or in a car.
What is an attraction?
It's just seeing all these old cars together. It just does something to me. You know, cars that I don't even remember, especially cars this age, you know, pre-war cars. I've just got a love for them.
Now what about this rally actually out today? How many have you been on?
This is my 4th year on this one. I normally come in a little Ford Anglia, but unfortunately she let me down on Saturday night, so I've had to bring the old lady out.
And what's the general response like to these rallies?
Well, I'd like £1 for every time someone said I passed my test in one of them or I learned to drive in one of them. It must be nice for people to see the cars that that were actually on the road as everyday cars at one time.
So you're going to be part of the road run. How's that going to be for you?
Oh, I love it. Sunroof open, windows down, off you go. Lovely.
And just on the off chance that the citizens of St Neots' civvy streets could turn ugly during the engine invasion, this lot ensured the rebellion would be nipped in the bud.
This is the type that they used during the war, the camouflage netting. This actual vehicle's a 1943 Jeep. It's been going during the war, it was being used, and this, that, and that. It came out of the war in 1947, and the REME did it up, and then they sold it on the market. I've been told they used to sell 3 of these for about £100 in those days, which, because there was a great many of these around in the time, I should think, but now they've gone up in value, obviously, and but parts are easy to get hold on, you know, if you're in a group and such, and people help you out and that sort of thing.
So it's quite a bargain. I understand, as well as its interesting military background, it's got quite a distinguished background as well in film.
Yeah, this actual Jeep was in a bridge too far and the Eagle has landed. A friend of mine, named of Tony Robinson, used to own a lot of vehicles, and this was one of them. So this vehicle might have been driven by James Caan or Laurence Olivier in that. Yeah. So there could have been a star sitting there.
Have you actually spotted it?
There's that many Jeeps in a bridge too far, but there's a twinkle in one of them's eye. It might be there.
Let's hope the Jeep sees less action on the road back to Higham Ferrers. For many, the trip back to the cavalcade was more a dash to meet up with one of steam's most famous advocates. Fred, you're attracting more attention here than your steam engines, I think.
Oh, well, no, we're doing calligraphy lessons, actually.
How have you enjoyed these last few days? How have you enjoyed the last few days?
Well, it's a bit better than last year because it rained all the time last year. It's very nice, you know. I mean, I got quite used to sitting in fields now, writing my name on bits of paper.
What do you think the attraction is to all these steam engines?
Well, to people coming to steam engine rallies. Well, it's steam engines, you know. I mean, really, when these things were made, it were a period, in my opinion, not everybody's, that you know, we led the world then, you know, from, you know, 1700s to the 1920s, you know, there were nobody could catch up with us, and look where we are now, you know. Well, not that good, is it? You know? Now in England, for every man that's trying to do anything, there are 15 guys on £300 a week who have a company car saying you can't do it this way, or you can't do it that way. That's my philosophy about it.
And where does your love of these come from? Where does your love originate from?
Well, of steam engines, I was born next door to engine sheds, you know, locomotive sheds and all that. And then, of course, I'm getting quite old now, and there were still a few steam engines left on fairground, you know. And I used to go to fair. I never went on any rides. I used to go and smell at the traction engines. And then as the years rolled by, you know, within quite a short period, I've been, say, from about 8 to 9 to like some of these little guys who wander around here. So by the time I was 15, they'd all gone, you know, to the scrap man, you know. And then, but I thought they had, you know, but they haven't really. There were one or two still rotting away here and there, like.
Which would you say you're more remembered for, being a steeplejack or a steam enthusiast? Or which would you prefer to be remembered?
Well, it's a bit difficult, man. I mean, these things, these postcards here today, we sell as many about, you know, steam engines as we do about climbing up chimneys. But I mean, the business of climbing up chimneys is pretty spectacular, lark, you know, occupation to be in.
Do you still do it now? Do you still do it now?
Yeah, of course I do, yeah. I've never forsaken my true vocation, you know. I've got 3 church towers going and 4 weather vanes, and when I go back home tomorrow, I'm having a day off tomorrow, but then on Thursday I shall knock about 4 foot off top of a chimney in Bolton. Well, I chuck it down bloody middle, you know, because they don't use it no more, you know, and all tops like a vase of daffodils, you know, it's all falling apart.
Well, Fred, we'll have to warn the people of Higham Ferrers and Rushden that you're out on the loose and to watch out for their chimneys.
There's more, I'll tell you what, there's more chimneys downtown here than there is left in Bolton.
We live right next to. And hoping to make a quick exit before those chimneys come crashing down were quite possibly the youngest exhibits on show during the weekend. Andrew, you've got several passengers here that seem to be enjoying the sun. First of all, who are they and what have you got here?
Yeah, okay, then it's Georgia, my little daughter, and Sam in the back. And they've been to France and the sidecar quite a few times, and they enjoy it a lot.
And what actual model have you got here?
Okay, the bike is a BSA A10 from the mid-50s, and the sidecar is a Watsonian, also from the mid-50s. It's a Watsonian Cambridge.
And what sort of ride do you get with this? Is it quite smooth or a bit bumpy?
No, this is very comfortable because it's proper leaf springing, so you get a very comfortable ride. In fact, quite often I find they're fast asleep when we get to the destination.
In the meantime, I think you have to survive the journey back to St. Neots. I think we'll let you get on.
Oh, thank you, yes. It is a bit warm, isn't it?
Philip, I hate to tell you this, but someone's nicked half your engine.
No, they haven't. That's how it's supposed to be.
Do you mean this is how it's supposed to be? What is it?
It's a Bond, it's a 1962 Bond mini car, and that's a 250cc Villiers 2-stroke petrol engine out of a motorbike.
And what does this actually mean to the handling of the car?
It doesn't make any difference. The handles superbly. They're very hard to tip over.
And very hard to drive by the look of it. How does it actually work?
It just drives like a normal car. That's what the best thing about them.
Now, I understand it doesn't have reverse gear, or didn't have when it was first made.
No, this one hasn't got reverse gear, but reverse gear was available as an optional extra.
And what about the gears themselves?
It's just a normal 4-speed like a motorbike.
Okay, now put your money where your mouth is and let me know. I understand that you can actually kick-start it from the engine here. Let's see if it'll work.
See if it'll work. I'll put the key in first.
Motors, yesteryear, and the other designs have changed over the years, haven't they? Well, while the others are lining up, start at this end, and lining up all of the other respective motors. Now this lady's got an interesting story to tell you all, because they still do. What's confidential? Thank you. But I always found it, having said that, a delightful little motor to drive. It's a fun car. That's the joy of owning it, driving it. And I see you've also got the Lido Vanguard version of it, obtainable this weekend from several of the die-cast collector stalls on the field this weekend. Well, I haven't actually seen any of them.
While the classic cars were showing off their wares, we took time out to collect a few flares. Michael, I was rather surprised to see this turn up at my bus stop. What is it?
It's an old 1949, so we're 50 years old, 1949 Bristol, 5LW. Came from Stroud, Bristol Way. I've had it for 18 years. Got a bit of work on it now. Just go through the MOT again for the second time. And a big paint job on. Derek Warboys, who works with us, who's a member of the society, very kindly helping me. What he doesn't know about gardeners is rather useful. So just delighted to be here.
And what sort of engine does it have here? It's open.
It's a Gardner 5LW, 5-cylinder. So you have a look at these, and they're used a lot on the fairgrounds, unfortunately, for powering the electricity. But they're a super engine. In the eastern counties, they used to be the 4LW. So this is a very typical bus, even though it's...
Now, you've mentioned the paint job. It does look like there's quite an extensive one here.
Yes, it is a bit. I'm hoping Derek might help me a bit, to be honest with you. And we'll go back to the Tilling Green and Tilling Cream, which is what the original colours were. I can't be had up for the what Rotary did in 1970s, but they took the back end out and put a tail lift in so they could take old folk out for a run in the Cotswolds.
Now, how did you manage to acquire it?
Through the HCVS, that's the Historic Commercial Vehicle Society, about 18 years ago.
And it's always been a bit of a labour of love since then?
Yeah, my young family have now grown up, but when they were 2 and 3, we'd be camping overnight in it, going down to 1 or 2 steam rallies down Hereford and Ledbury way, before we moved over to Cambridgeshire.
Now, when it's in pristine condition, do you think you'll be taking it out on the roads and collecting a few fares?
I won't collect the fares, but I fancy a booze cruise or a few trips to the local other pubs in the villages, just purely a laugh, bit of fun.
Well, these are all in fine fettle and ready for action. Well, arena action anyway.
Version of Land Rover
here's another motor raring to go on safari. David, this car seems rather blasé about being on TV again. What's its history?
Well, the history of the car, it's a 75 DS23 Safari. I've owned it now since 1986, so what's that, about 13 years, something like that. Done a fair amount of restoration work on it, but nothing major. And briefly, as you see, it appeared on Top Gear, BBC Top Gear's The Car is the Star.
Now, if I do say the car is a star, it obviously means an awful lot to you. What happened?
It means a lot to me, whether it means a lot to other people, because my shots were on it very, very briefly, but they took us down to a garage in Worcester where they were filming these static shots of the cars and mine, and then pieced that together with the rest of the programme, which was taking the saloon cars around tracks and that sort of thing and showing you how they perform and how the suspension works and all that sort of thing.
Now, where does the name Safari come from?
Oh, it's just another word for an estate version, really. It's the French refer to it as Le Break. We called it the Safari when it came to England, but in other words, it's an estate car, estate version of the DS Saloon.
Now, another phrase that many of us recognise is the phrase 3 wheels on my wagon. I understand this is rather pertinent to this model.
Well, yeah, the D can be driven with one of its rear wheels off, because the suspension will compensate, and most of the weight's on the front of the car anyway. And one of the safest features of the hydropneumatic suspension is you can burst a tyre and it doesn't affect the steering at all. In fact, about 2 years ago I was coming down the A1 one evening and I could smell rubber, and then it sort of disappeared and I thought, no, it's not me, it's not me. And I must have gone for about 20 miles at 70 to 80 mile an hour, and when I finally pulled in thinking there is something wrong, I got a flat front tyre.
And didn't notice it at all?
Didn't notice. The suspension compensates for it, so you don't feel it on the steering or anything. It was not until I pulled in, the cover was okay as it happened, but the inner tube was all twisted round the rim and welded to it when I took it into the garage the next day to have the tyre changed. So really it's a very safe suspension system, and I think very underrated.
And you've fallen in love with it?
Oh, yeah, I've been in love with Citroens ever since they were first brought into this country in the 1955 Motor Show.
What is it about them?
Just the design. It was so advanced for its time. The Citroen sat down with a completely clean sheet of paper and said, we're going to design the perfect motor car.
And is it the perfect motor car to you?
It is to me. Oh yes. I don't think there'll be such a car, such an advanced car again, ever.
Join us in just a minute when we'll be celebrating our newfound domestication, with all our washing done, the kettle on the boil, and the supper in the oven. The Cavalcade has changed beyond belief during its 21 years of existence, but still at the heart of each show are the steam engines which make each show come alive.
This is a William Alchin built in Northampton in 1912. We came to the present ownership about 5 years ago. A friend of mine owns it, I just helped run it for him.
Now, how does one go about actually purchasing something this nature?
Well, within the scene there is a lot of auctions going on, and they exchange hands privately at a reasonable amount of money. We won't give into detail on money.
Now, what sort of things on this engine make it special to you?
Basically because I'm a Northampton man and this was built in Northampton, and we brought it back to Northampton, as I say, 5 years ago, and at the time that was the first one back in the county after many years.
Now, it's always very difficult to find what they've been doing in the meantime, but have you any history on this?
Yes, it was working down at the 7 Bristol area. It worked all its working life there. It went into preservation down that area, and that is where we bought it from. So from the day it was built, it never seen Northampton roads.
Now, I understand it also comes in rather handy when you're feeling a little peckish. What have we got in the engine?
Well, we've just shut the chickens out at the moment, but we're still waiting for the roast spuds to go. Would you like to see them?
See how they're going.
Yeah, definitely need a little bit longer yet. We've got to go for a road run in a little while.
Robin, while the potatoes are still cooking, we've just time to have a little word about the Nuff Rush over here.
Yeah, it was an early Rushden Hornsby roller that we nicknamed the Nuff Rush because it had a Nuffield tractor engine put on top. To our knowledge, it's the only one of that type of conversion of a roller in existence.
How old is it?
It was built 1905, the roller. The tractor's around the 50 mark. A firm called Lever Brothers own a big farm in the area, and they converted it just for rolling the roads. So it weren't actually, as you could call, a commercial use, more as a play toy for the farmer to keep the roads smooth.
But Robin, the most important point is, can you keep your potatoes hot in it?
Not in that one. I'm afraid the diesel engine don't get as warm as these.
And here's another hot potato to get your teeth into. Trevor, this is quite a spectacular vehicle here, and it seems to be falling apart around us. Is it supposed to be like this?
Well, no. The actual bonnet is virtually nearly half the car. As soon as you open the bonnet, it looks as though the car's falling in half, but it's not really. It's such a big bonnet for the...
So it's all very safe?
It is, oh yeah.
Now, you're sitting in the driver's seat, and some may be surprised about this. We all thought that the Jag was a British-made model.
Well, yeah, but a lot of the first E-types, or a lot of them, went to America, so they was all made for left-hand drives. So rather than, when this was come back into the country in 1995, rather than change it over, I left it left-hand drive because it doesn't bother me driving on the left, or a left-hand car.
Now, how did you manage to put it all back together? I understand it was a bit of a jigsaw puzzle.
It was when I first bought the car. It was, it came as it was, but no glass, no interior. There was a lot of things missing off it, but they were all in boxes, 6 boxes. And then the previous owner in this country stripped it out to respray it, and then he left it in the garage for 4 years with doing nothing to it, until I came along and brought the car off in with all the boxes. And it took me about a year to find out where all the bits went.
It was a real labour of love.
It was, yes, yeah. No, so I've done all the work myself on it, and now I've had an E-type, I know virtually every inch of it.
And you would never give it up?
No, not really. No, it's when you do a car like this, it's part of you, and when you spend all your nights in the garages and that with the wife inside, and thank God I didn't have a telephone inside the garage, she'd be calling me up all the time. But it is a labour of love.
Now, it's common knowledge to Northants TV staff that I haven't passed my driving test yet, and I'm not likely to with this model. It's a 1930s Morris, and its accelerator pedal is in the middle. Little of the history of this 2-seater Morris Cowley is known. Its previous owner found it in 1979 in a shed in Thaxted. It was then stripped to the chassis and rebuilt to its present condition. And yes, it is quite common for 1930s Morrises to have their accelerator pedal in the middle and to have a 3-speed gearbox. This Cowley has a top speed of 50 miles per hour, cost £165 when new, and was used to ferry Dame Vera Lynn around during the 1995 parade on VE Day. And this wasn't the only reminder of bygone days. Richard, we're at the end of the 3 days now. How has it gone?
Tremendous. After the weather that we had last weekend, we were very concerned about the state of the ground, but this does stand on limestone, so it does drain very, very good. And luckily enough, the sun's come out for us, and we're doing tremendously well. What we do the cavalcade for is to raise money for our
projects down at the station, and all the money that we plough back into those projects, including the restoration of this bus behind me and our other buses and road transport. And at the moment we're currently trying to extend our line back to Higham Ferrers. So all the money that's raised over this 3 days goes straight back into preservation.
I don't think anyone begrudges that today.
No, I don't think so. Everybody's walking about with a smiling face, so if we can do that, then it's a good £9 for a family ticket.
All too soon it was time to go home. The cavalcade's objective was to provide 3 days of family fun and entertainment, and the mission had been accomplished. The guide ropes were pulled up on another year's show, and the vehicles rolled back to suburban sidings. So from the fields of Lancaster Farm and Cavalcade 99, goodbye.